Atheist Nomads, episode 299, Vladimir's Church, part 2, Patriarchs to Putin.
Putin on the Ritz.
Putin.
That's another one for the soundboard, because whenever you say Putin, I always say Putin on the Ritz. Cracker. Putin on the Ritz, cracker. The podcast you're about to listen to includes cursing and talking about hoo-haws. Please be advised.
Welcome to the episode of Atheist Nomads. I am Dustin. Joining me is Lauren.
Hello.
And we have Aaron.
Hi.
Okay, so we have a couple of announcements. First up, we have episode 300 live stream at Noon Mountain for 300 minutes. That's 5 hours on 420. It's going to be a lot of fun. We have some guests coming. We'll be rotating through. It's going to be a blast. And it will be live video on YouTube. You can find details at atheistnomads.com/300live. I'll have something there by the time this actually goes out on the main feed.
Oh, Kylie is just so freaking cute.
During the live stream, we will be giving away 2 copies of the SGU book that we got from Cosmos Coffee Club when we did the thing.
We only show up to the club to swoop in and steal prizes. That's awesome, though.
Yeah.
If you have any questions, discussion requests, congratulations, or whatnot, please use SpeakPipe at atheistnomads.com/SpeakPipe or email contact@atheistnomads.com to submit that to us. Audio is preferred, but we will also accept text. The voicemail line will be available up until that point, and then it will be retired. It gets used maybe once a year. That's not worth it. So it is going away.
Yes, and we are standing by for a fax, I think, too.
And the Facebook
voicemail. What are you?
The Facebook page is something worth actually talking about a little bit here, because I made the comment about how much I hate Facebook and don't want to actually spend any time on the page, and then took a look at the page while I was editing and discovered what a hellhole it had turned into.
Dumpster fire.
Yeah.
Oh man, it was bad. Several
you people
posts.
are awful. Actually, no, most of you are cool.
It was 3 or 4 people who want hate speech to be freely available on social media.
Right, because, First Amendment.
And who think that trans prisoners do not deserve any rights.
Right.
And that if you want to transition, go to a Aryan country, whatever that means.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I didn't understand that.
No,
yeah.
I think he meant Asian, but we don't know.
It could have meant Nordic. I don't know, but that slip of the finger sounds awfully Freudian to me. So, in case you didn't see the message on the Facebook
Nazi
page, if you keep up bullshit like that, you will be blocked. Yep. Pure and simple. If you say something sexist, homophobic, anti-trans, racist, or otherwise super shitty, I will not hesitate to block you, and I am checking a lot more frequently now.
If he's paying attention.
I'm watching
also,
closer.
Yes, we are humanists. That's kind of the thing. So be nice.
And let's go ahead and jump into Dustin off the degree. We're going to wrap up the Russian part of the Russian Orthodox Church. Don't worry, there will be more Russian Orthodoxy with the American...
Just not Russian.
But not in Russia. So anyway, last week we left off with the 2 metropolitans of Kiev and all Rus, in other words, heads of the Russian province of the Orthodox Church. One was in Lithuanian-controlled Kiev and was still subordinate to the ecumenical Patriarch of Constantinople, who by this time was not in Constantinople because the Byzantine Empire had fallen to the Ottoman Turks. The second metropolitan was in Moscow over the effectively independent Orthodox Church in Russia. And a metropolitan is basically equivalent to a archbishop or a cardinal in the Catholic system. All right, Lauren is exiting with the tantruming baby. In 1589, during the reign of Tsar Fyodor, maybe, the First, the ecumenical patriarch was contacted And considering this was a century after the end of the Byzantine Empire, the Patriarch was desperately in need of money, and the Tsar wanted the Metropolitan of Moscow to be officially promoted to Patriarch and actually be completely independent, not pretending to be independent. The Ecumenical Patriarch agreed, and Metropolitan Job became the Patriarch of Moscow and all Rus.
His name was Joe?
Job.
Job.
Yeah, Job.
Metropolitan Joe.
No, Job. He became Patriarch Job of Moscow and all Rus, which a little bit later became Moscow and all Russia, as they finally started actually calling it by the name of the country that it was becoming. This elevated Moscow to the level previously only held by the Patriarchs of Constantinople, Antioch, Jerusalem, and Alexandria, with Constantinople, of course, being considered the first among the equals of the at that point, 4 patriarchs, then became 5.
Yeah.
Then in 1652, Patriarch Nikon wanted to centralize power and conform the church's rights to those of the Greek Orthodox Church, since things had been diverging basically since the initial conversion of the Rus more than half a millennia earlier. The Tsar gave his blessing on this endeavor, but it resulted in a schism with the old ritualist who refused to conform to the Greek rite being forced out of the church. It also made them enemies of the state, so most of them were burned at the stake, exiled, or escaped to Siberia. So the schism died out. And in case there's any doubt, escaping to Siberia just means you die slowly.
Nice.
Yeah. Like the Soviets were well known to send people to Siberia to die.
Right. A slow, cold death.
But Nikon had more ambition than just reforming the church. He also wanted to turn the empire into a full-blown theocracy. The Tsar was not amused, so he defrocked him and exiled him out of Russia, but kept most of his reforms in place. Then, when Kiev was conquered by the Russian Empire in 1686, the Metropolitanate of Kiev and all Rus was transferred to the control of the Patriarchate of Moscow, which will actually be coming up again at the end of this time period we're talking about.
Ew.
Yeah. Then things really started to change with the late 17th and early 18th century during the reign of Tsar Peter the Great. He had the goal of modernizing the empire, and despite being a devout member of the Orthodox Church, he wasn't a fan of the church hierarchy.
Who is?
So he put it under the state's control and replaced the Patriarch with the Holy Synod, a group of bishops, which he controlled. And he took over the appointment of all bishops and eventually appointed a new patriarch.
Yeah.
But it was the Tsar who handled all of those appointments. Catherine the Great seized most of the church's lands, and she put priests on a small state salary that they could supplement with fees for services like baptisms and marriages. And this gave her even more control over the church than what Peter had gained. And during this time, the empire was growing, and with the church effectively serving as a department of the empire, the growth of the empire resulted in growth for the church. This extended all the way to Alaska, with the descendants of those Alaskan missions now being known as the Orthodox Church in America, which is about half of the Russian Orthodox churches you will find in America. Because there's actually 2 groups here, separated by much, much history. The end of the empire was not a good thing for the Russian Orthodox Church, especially once the Bolsheviks took over. The Soviet government severed all ties with the church, then seized all the land of the church, and killed or exiled most of the priests and bishops who didn't escape in the 1920s. During the following decades, the government alternated between hardcore persecution and limited tolerance of the church. The Russian clergy who managed to escape the Soviet Union formed the Russian Orthodox Church outside Russia, which claimed to be the true Russian Orthodox Church, with the church that remained in Russia being heretics and Soviet collaborators. And this Russian Orthodox Church outside Russia is still in existence and is mostly found in the U.S. It's the other half of the Russian Orthodox churches you have in the U.S. Then with the 1980s and Gorbachev's reforms, some of the church's lands were returned, and the active suppression of the church ended. After the fall of the Soviet Union, the church tried to fill the ideological vacuum that had been left, while the mob tried to fill the power and economic vacuums. Since Vladimir Putin took power, the church has enjoyed his support, both personally and as a matter of government policy, but this has also brought it under his direct personal control, much like Peter and Catherine. On October 15, 2018, the Holy Synod of the Russian Orthodox Church severed full communion with the Ecumenical Patriarch of Constantinople. This means they are no longer on speaking terms, basically.
They broke up.
Yeah. The Russian Orthodox Church, fifth among the patriarchs, is no longer among the patriarchs, the other patriarchs. And this was because the Ecumenical Patriarch lifted his excommunication of the Orthodox Autocephalous Church of Ukraine and also the Patriarchate of Kiev, which had been in rebellion against the Moscow Patriarchate since 1922 and 1992, respectively. And an autocephalous church means the head of that group of the church is independent. It means you get to have your own head, as opposed to being under a higher head.
Oh, that could be interesting.
Yeah. So then there were some negotiations that went on then between the Orthodox churches in Ukraine and also between the Ukrainian president and the Ecumenical Patriarch of Constantinople that ended with the unification of the Ukrainian Orthodox churches, and the Unification Council elected Metropolitan Epiphany, yes, his name is Epiphany, to be the Patriarch of Kiev and all Ukraine. This was complete on December 15, 2018, and on January 6, 2019, Ecumenical Patriarch Bartholomew blessed Patriarch Epiphany, finalizing the independence of the Ukrainian Orthodox Church, independent of Moscow, which really pissed off Vladimir Putin. He basically took this as a personal insult. Yeah. When you have state churches, politics are heavily, heavily involved.
Yeah.
And so to summarize, since summaries are often good to have, from 988 to 1439, what would become the Russian Orthodox Church was part of the Greek Orthodox Church. From 1439 to 1700, the Russian Orthodox Church was independent and pretty powerful. Then from 1700 to the establishment of the Soviet Union, it was basically a department of the state. And today, it's basically the personal property of Vladimir Putin. It's a story that started with one Vladimir, and it ends with another. And then next, we will be talking about the Orthodox churches in the United States.
Ooh.
But that will have to come another time, and we are going to have some news now. Last year, 2 Russian prisons started offering yoga classes, but then a theology professor wrote a paper claiming that it would turn the prisoners gay and lead to riots. This got the support of some right-wing politicians, and the prison system put it on hold and completed a study into the claims, which they found to be complete and utter bullshit. And the classes have been reinstated.
I just like how they were like, you know what? Let's look into this. Let's do a study. Let's see. I mean, that's logical.
Yeah.
I just can't believe that they even put any validity to it might being true.
When the start of it all is a theology professor making claims about that something might turn someone gay and cause riots. Those would seem to be definite psychological, scientifically verifiable data points.
Yeah.
It should have just been rejected outright.
Right.
But when you have a member of the legislature who hates gay people seeing this...
I mean, Russia's not very gay friendly anyway.
Yeah, well, okay, so they are technically not anti-gay officially. They just don't allow any gay propaganda to youth.
The gay agenda.
Yeah. Pro-gay propaganda that is being directed at minors is illegal.
Well, I mean, I've never seen any I haven't seen any pamphlets that are like, hey, want to be gay? That's to me what propaganda would be. Right.
Well, under the Russian definition of it, acknowledging that homosexuality exists, saying that it's okay to be gay,
that's propaganda.
That's all propaganda. Suggesting that there's nothing wrong with being gay is pro-gay propaganda. And if there's a chance that children might hear it or see it, that's illegal. Also, being gay in public, like actively doing anything that would make it obvious that you are gay in public, if there is a chance that children are around, is also illegal as pro-gay propaganda.
Yeah, so I'm thinking I'm going to stand by the fact that Russia is not a very friendly country.
Oh, you're exactly right. Yeah. I was being facetious.
Yes. I'm going to stick by that.
Yes, I was being very facetious.
Okay,
no, they aren't anti-gay. They're just anti-gay propaganda.
Right.
To protect the children.
They always think about them children.
And so when you call it that, then it just, it opens up the possibility to do whatever anti-gay stuff that you want, and then you can say that it's not.
Right. So, yay, they did a study. They found out that yoga doesn't turn people gay, and so now they can have yoga again, which I'm sure creates some very peaceful prisoners.
Well, what they actually found was that in the study was that that prisoners who take part in yoga see the doctor less often. Tend to be happier.
Yeah.
And they're also adding in some meditation classes.
Oh, very good. Very good.
Which is just all so weird. But it's Russia. It's Russia.
Right, exactly.
We've been talking about some of the weird with Russia lately.
Right, exactly.
There's a lot there.
Yeah.
Sticking with weird, though, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that Texas could not execute a Buddhist man without his chaplain in the chamber, since they do allow Christian and Muslim chaplains to be present. And if this sounds familiar, it's because we covered an almost identical story from Alabama where the Muslim inmate's request to have an imam present was denied, with the explanation being that he'd waited too long and the state's policy was to only allow employees. The only difference between these two cases, other than the exact religion of the inmate, is how long before the execution date they submitted the request. That's not huge. That shouldn't really matter.
Right.
But anyway, so this time the request was apparently made early enough, and it was determined that all chaplains or none needed to be allowed, which is actually probably the right decision.
Right.
Texas decided on none.
Yeah. Which I know that there were a few people who read this, and I mean, they feel that that's a little, I would say, inhumane, and just not having somebody to be there to support.
Yeah.
But then on the other hand,
the state is murdering people.
Yeah.
If you're going to be killing people, you're killing people.
Yeah.
It shouldn't, whether or not the inmate gets to talk to a chaplain
in the room
moments before,
right,
or an hour before, should not be a material difference.
No. I mean, they're just not letting them in the chamber.
Right. They can be in the observation room.
Okay. And I mean, they can talk to him beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
What is Texas? Like, what is their, lethal injection?
Yeah, it's lethal injection.
I heard, which is painful.
Especially now, since drug companies don't want their products being used to kill people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then again, I'm have a very atypical standpoint on the death penalty that I think it should be very rare.
Yeah.
That it should not be out of just
an eye for an eye, because that's where it came from.
Shouldn't just be for personal vengeance. But I do think there are cases where it could be worthwhile. I also think it needs to not be sanitized. The only form of execution that I'm actually okay with is public hanging and firing squad. Public.
Yeah.
Don't clean it up. If you're going to kill people, if the state is going to kill people, don't clean it up.
Yeah.
It's brutal. It's ugly. It's nasty. Don't try to sanitize it. That's just bullshit. Alternatively, don't do it. Because there's nothing wrong with the state not killing people. In a stark change in anti-abortion tactics, a Texas bill would classify abortion as murder. Straight up, it's murder. Homicide. Premeditated, obviously, and eligible for the death penalty.
In Texas.
In Texas.
It's just like, Texas. You're dumb. I don't know. Yeah. Like, it's so, I just think this is so, and it's a dude. A dude put the bill up. I think he's older. I think he's got white hair. I am 100% certain he's probably an evangelical Christian. He's some kind of very Christian.
Tony Tinderholt, Republican from Arlington. He is the one behind it.
Yeah.
It made it through the House Judiciary Committee. It will be going through to the full Texas House for debate.
Well, the whole thing is that this is going to go, I don't know. You know, if it passes, then it's going to go to the ACLU or whoever is going to sue.
They're ready.
I mean, they're going to take it all the way to the Supreme Court if that's an issue.
Oh, definitely.
And I'm not saying that, oh, whatever, we should poo-poo this. Obviously, we shouldn't. This is 2019, and I'm going to get on my lady soapbox because this is just fucking ridiculous. Like, stop. I just don't... to me, it feels like they're pandering to a group of people who are just ass backwards and stupid.
Yeah.
Like, it's just... I mean, and the other problem is that they're getting money from supported groups. Obviously, they have lobbyists behind them who are giving them money so that they support this bill. And then, I don't know, you know, it's just, it's frustrating. It's frustrating. I mean, time and time again, still to this day, we have these dudes who will never understand.
Yeah.
Never understand.
Yeah.
And guys making decisions.
Well, and especially when you consider the fact that pro-life now means the state killing women. You know, the evidence is very solid, incontrovertible, that if you prohibit abortion, it still happens. Women just die. That's what the pro-life movement wants.
Right.
This is just making it more direct with the state doing the killing for the ones who don't die in the back alley procedures in the first place.
Right.
It is just bullshit.
It is bullshit, but everything seems to be bullshit these days. I don't know. I'm not in a good space.
No, you're not.
I am you know, I'm a lady in a hard place right now. So everything is going to be extremely frustrating to me right now. So this is extremely frustrating.
Yeah.
It's stupid. I am getting emotional about it. I think it's just like, the shitty and the scary thing is that if we don't keep saying something about it, if men who are, let's say, allies, you know, and women don't keep saying something about it, then it's going to be, I mean, we didn't think Donald Trump would be president.
Right.
And it's scary because it's like, we also didn't realize that people were going to be shooting up so much things. And, you know, I'm going to take it to all these things. Yeah. Like, we are never, after Sandy Hook, and I think we've talked about this, then we've never been able to look back.
Right.
Like, things have just gotten progressively worse. And so now we laugh about this. We laugh about it because it's like, oh, these crazy Republican guys again, here that we go. But it could happen.
It's a strategy.
Exactly. And the thing is that, like, it's scary to be a woman And, to think like my choice for my body is going to be taken away.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be scary, and it sucks.
If you look at the strategy that has gone into play here, Mitch McConnell did not allow Obama to fill very many court positions, not just a Supreme Court post, but once McConnell took control of the Senate, Obama basically got no judges confirmed.
Right.
So if you hold that open for 2 years, there's going to be a lot of openings that Trump gets to fill.
Yeah.
McConnell also made sure that a lot of Obama's appointees didn't make it onto the bench the entire time, his entire presidency.
Right.
So Trump is taking the most right-wing group's recommendations on who to get on the bench.
Yeah.
Going with the youngest, most conservative people who want abortion to be illegal.
Right.
Activist judges who want to prohibit abortion.
Until they knock up their mistresses.
Right, yes. Or they have children, because a lot of these judges that are getting appointed are in their 30s.
Right.
May not have children yet.
Yeah.
But until their children need to get abortions, then they're going to be all on board.
Yeah.
But so there's that happening on the one side, and on the other, states have been getting more and more aggressive and bold in their anti-abortion bills. And most of them don't pass, but they get to see what the public response is to it, and then they can test the next one. And as they go to court, a lot of them aren't surviving in court, but some are. And the ones that do survive keep moving the line for where it's okay to prohibit abortion earlier and earlier and earlier.
Yeah.
And we now have heartbeat bills that are alleged fetal heartbeats from before it's a fetus. Embryonic heartbeats, there's no heart there.
Right.
But there's a heartbeat before there's a heart that develops.
Right.
And this is taken to the point of just calling it straight up murder. And part of it even is just they've made it so that drunk driver hits a car. If the woman in the car is pregnant, they can do an additional count on the damage or death or whatever that happens. So they've already added in laws that nobody objected to or thought anything of at the time, but it was creating the precedence that a fetus counts as a person under the law. And they're pushing it to the point of an embryo counts as a person according to the law. And as they do that, it's going to get easier and easier for bills to make it through to prohibit abortion. And that sucks.
Yeah.
It's this long-term strategy. And if you are screaming slippery slope right now, it's called legal precedent. Legal precedent is slippery slope.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is fallacious. It's how it works.
Right.
The Overton window moves as courts rule and nudge things further and further and further.
Right.
That's how things happen.
Yeah.
Big sweeping changes rarely happen. Tiny little incremental changes do happen.
Right. They're playing the long game.
Yep. So we also have a story that's 2 years old, but it's making the rounds again, and Aaron wanted to talk about it.
Yeah, for sure, which is great because, Texas just had this bill talking about the fact that abortion, death penalties for women who have abortions, in 2017. So it's House Bill 4260 called the Men's Right to Know Act, and it would punish male masturbation with a $100 fine and require men who want Viagra to be subject to a rectal exam. And so it was filed by legislator Representative Jessica Ferrer. And it was in 2017, and there wasn't really much after this.
Right.
But the whole point, and I'm going to say this, I did look on Facebook and I did look at the comments, and someone did say 2017, which, was a fair point. It was something that we posted from 2017, but it is making the rounds again because the point of the bill is a little bit satirical.
Yeah.
Because obviously it's never going to be passed. But the whole point of it, and I can tell some of you, I'm going to chastise them. I can tell some of you did not read the article. The point of putting up the bill is how absurd it is for a woman or for anybody to tell men what to do with their ejaculations and their bodies, and people went fucking apeshit over it. That's absurd, and obviously it didn't pass, but now we need to look at the fact that then why are we being so okay with women's bodies being subjected to all this shit?
And this bill was specifically about the transvaginal ultrasound bills.
Yeah.
Which were the popular right-wing anti-abortion movement of 3 years ago.
Yeah. And as she had pointed out, and I'm just going to quote, a lot of people find the bill funny. What's not funny are the obstacles that Texas women face every day that were placed there by the legislature, making it very difficult for them to access health care. Mm-hmm. So just reproductive health care.
Yeah.
And so the bill calls masturbatory emissions an act against an unborn child and failing to preserve the sanctity of life. The bill also contains provisions that would also put restrictions on vasectomies, Viagra prescriptions, and colonoscopies, including that there would be an informational booklet called A Man's Right to Know that contains information and illustrations on the benefits and concerns about those 3 treatments. A man must review the booklet before going through with any of them. And a man would not be able to sue a doctor for refusing any of these services because of personal, moralistic, or religious beliefs. A doctor must obtain consent from the man before providing the treatment, and the man may give it only if he waits at least 24 hours after the doctor's visit, and the state must establish a registry of nonprofit organizations and hospitals that provide abstinence counseling, a supervising physician for masturbatory admissions and semen storage. Masturbatory emissions must be stored for the wife for conception. Yeah. And we laugh about this because this is funny, but these are all things that women have to do.
Yep.
These are all things that have been up and passed in law, where there is a booklet that a woman must receive before an abortion with all these pictures of where stages are and what's going to happen. And there's a 24-hour,
in some cases, 72-hour,
waiting period. Mm-hmm. You have to have a vaginal ultrasound before having all this stuff. It's like, good God, it's pretty awful.
Yeah.
and now, besides just having all that access and all that, now the fear is that you're going to die.
Yeah.
But I do think it's interesting that I've been saying, and they're usually in memes or something like that, or people are saying stuff, and I'm just going to throw it out there. But it is interesting that these conservative groups are so into saving these unborn children, but then they're okay with children going without food. They're okay with abysmal foster care. Mm-hmm. They're okay with kids on the street. They're okay with kids not having clean water.
Yeah.
It's just good.
Yeah.
Again, I am frustrated today. And so I'm trying to be as funny as possible, but it's and it is funny. I mean, let's laugh about that. That is pretty funny. All those things are pretty funny in the bill, but I think the bigger picture is we need to look at the fact that these are all things that men have written for women without ever having to experience it. And the fact that Viagra is so readily available and they're on healthcare plans. I mean, luckily I have health insurance. It's great. And they have birth control, and birth control is free. I I'm just going to say it. I used to say birth control was a medicine, and it kind of is, but it also is that I don't have kids because I have sex.
Yeah.
I like to have sex. And some people like to do that. And it's frustrating too in 2019 when you still have people who are like, well, if you just closed your legs and blah, blah, blah. Anyway.
Yeah.
A funny subject to a very heavy subject.
Okay, so we're actually sticking with women's issues. But now we're going to move to India, where one of the top clerics in India's largest Muslim seminary has issued a fatwa against women watching soccer. The rationale is that women would get so distracted and aroused by all the bare thighs that they probably wouldn't even notice if someone scores. This is just... Seriously? I am... I am going to guess that for this guy to be thinking this, that he must be getting distracted by the thighs.
Right.
Because realistically, who in their right mind would think this?
I mean, I like thighs. But, so wait, so... so stupid. It's so stupid. It's so dumb.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's his yeah, that's his opinion. He must like that. You're right. He must like thighs. Mm-hmm. He must be like, you know what I see a lot here? Thighs.
Yeah. Yeah. All those very fit men running around with their bare, sweaty thighs.
Right. But I guess the whole thing is that, like, the leg is the most uncovered part of a soccer player. Mm-hmm. Next, he'll be like, and also the forearms.
Now,
the forearms and the thighs.
And what's kind of crazy with it is, if I'm remembering correctly from watching the World Cup, the socks go all the way up to the knee, and the shorts are pretty long. There's only a couple inches of exposed skin there. That's not a whole lot to go off of, but this guy's concerned about it because can't trust those women to watch sports. Because
they can't control themselves.
Yeah.
Because he can't control himself. Yeah. Yep. Cool.
Yeah. So New York City has been dealing with the worst measles outbreak that they've had since 1991. And this has been spreading through the Orthodox Jewish community since October. Previous efforts to contain the outbreak have all failed, so now the mayor has, in his latest emergency declaration, ordered that those who have not been vaccinated and who do not have evidence of a previous infection to be fined $1,000.
I mean... anything that I know about the Orthodox Jewish community is that they've got their own little community and they don't give a fuck.
Yeah. Well, they aren't specifically anti-vax, but there has been a lot of anti-vax propaganda in recent years that has been specifically targeting the Orthodox Jewish community in New York.
Right.
So a lot of kids there have not been vaccinated. It was a trip to Israel was where measles was picked up and brought into New York.
Yeah.
Because Israel also, with a large Orthodox population and ultra-Orthodox population,
right,
has a really bad measles outbreak going on right now as well. About half of voters across all demographics think that Christian nationalism is a critical or important threat. Roughly half of Republicans and roughly half of evangelicals think that it's not a threat. Really? That's
because they're nationalists. That's because they're nationalists. Of course, they don't think it's a threat because they're part of the problem.
So, white evangelicals make up about 23% of the population, which we will be covering in the next story.
Yeah.
Republicans are about 30%. And half of each of those groups, which definitely makes it sound like basically all Republicans are white evangelicals.
Yeah. I mean, most of them are.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm kind of surprised the numbers aren't worse for that side. But I am encouraged to see that 20% of all registered voters, according to the survey, believe that Christian nationalism is a critical threat, and 27% think it's important but not critical.
Yes, let's all just turn our backs on it. This is what would happen. I mean, yeah.
And it's a real threat right now. It's not a hypothetical.
No. Yeah.
We've got fucking Mike Pence running most of the country right now, and
right.
These absurd bills like coming out of Texas.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's everywhere. And it needs to stop.
Yeah, well.
Okay, so for some better news, for the first time ever, no religion came out on top in the General Social Survey for religious identifications, although it is in a statistical tie with Catholics and evangelicals. And actually, evangelicals, not white evangelicals. White evangelicals are even smaller group than that. 23.1% of people in the survey claim no religion, and the other two were not far behind. That's encouraging. And that's it.
All right.
We have no feedback this week and no new supporters. But if you want to reach out to us and leave us a message for episode 300, you've got a couple days left. Please try to get it to me by Friday, but Saturday morning, earlier in the morning, the better, at the absolute latest, since we will be starting the live stream at noon Mountain Time. That would be 2 p.m. Eastern. That'd be 11 a.m. Pacific if you're in the U.S., and figure out the time yourself wherever else in the world you are. But yeah, that will be live. If you want to get us a message, the voicemail line at 541-203-0666 will be active at least through to the end of the live stream. SpeakPipe would be preferable, or send us an email, contact@atheistnomads.com. More details on the live stream, like an embedded video, will be at atheistnomads.com/300live. And we'll also be sending it out via Twitter and Facebook and all the other places as we get closer. So be on the lookout for that. It will be a lot of fun. It's going to be 5 hours. We've got some guests coming on. We've got Mary, Jinx, and Jason. It's going to be a good time. It's going to be 5 hours. We do have giveaways. It's something you want to be at. So please be sure to join us for that. The more audience participation we have, the more enjoyable it will be for everyone. Saturday, April 20 at noon Mountain for 300 minutes. Aaron, thank you for joining me.
Yes, thanks for having me again. Oh, wait, I'm always here. Yeah. Thanks. Thanks, this is great. I wish it was a little bit better circumstances. Next week should be better, for sure.
Listeners, remember, not all those who wander are lost. Thank you for listening to another episode of Atheist Nomads. You can find show notes and contact information at atheistnomads.com. Follow us on Twitter at Atheist Nomads, and like us on Facebook at facebook.com/atheistnomads. Please subscribe to the show in iTunes, Stitcher, or your podcatcher of choice, and while you're there, feel free to leave us a review. Theme music is courtesy of Sturdy Fred. Until next time, this has been the Atheist Nomads.